Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Left Hook. We finally have Congressman Khanna on. He's been ditching me for several dates, but I knew he was doing some good work. He's back. He's from the Bay Area, Democratic congressman. And we're here to talk about, well, a lot, folks. We have Jack Smith's testimony. We have ICE now, according to a whistleblower report, that's going to ignore the Fourth Amendment and barge into our homes after already killing Renee Nicole Good and tear gassing 6-month-old babies and being deployed in Maine. We also have the Epstein scandal. We have Donald Trump just being a deranged, demented man, just offending all of us and making us sad about the state of America abroad at Davos, and also people's lack of faith in the Democratic establishment. I did not say all Democrats, Ro. I said the Democratic establishment. Let's begin with Jack Smith. He said, a lot today in his testimony, and I want to ask you this. Why is it important for Americans to hear from Jack Smith and specifically what he said today about Donald Trump's role in the insurrection and his criminal intent, not just in the insurrection and the cover up, but also when it comes to stealing classified documents and lying about it?
Well, this is personal for me. I was locked up in my office for over 14 hours when people attacked the Capitol. I remember how much fear we had, not just for our lives, but for the state of democracy, and how at the middle of the night, Pelosi called us to vote to certify the elections. Jack Smith needs to tell this story again and again and again so that we actually remember what Donald Trump did. And it was not just that he incited a mob. It is that systematically for months he was plotting with Justice Department officials on how to invalidate lawful electors from different states and how to invalidate the election result. It is the most systematic effort to undermine a democratically elected president. And if we don't repeat this and if we don't remember it, then we're going to license future people to try to steal elections again. So it is so courageous and important what Jack Smith is doing.
But the problem is this, is he was very blunt today, and I'm sure the people will be seeing the many clips that have gone viral. Well, Jack Smith did not hold back, said that there was criminal intent, said that he had the evidence. Donald Trump knew that he lost the 2020 election, still went ahead with the violent insurrection, unleashed this mob that attacked police officers. And then he also criticized not just Donald Trump, but the Republicans who went along with it are perfectly fine with Donald Trump pardoning insurrectionists and the judges who went along with it. Many Americans are watching right now and saying, okay, where's the accountability? Congress and our institutions have totally failed. That here's Jack Smith and the Supreme Court and the entirety of the Republican Party and Congress and our institutions did not hold this man accountable, who Jack Smith again said will continue using intimidation, coercion, and continue his criminality. Why have faith then in this system that did not hold Donald Trump accountable and has given him now a green light, Ro?
Well, President Biden appointed the wrong person attorney general. Let's just speak bluntly. We should have had a far more assertive attorney general. Frankly, someone like Kamala Harris would have done a good job as attorney general, someone who would have actually prosecuted the crimes. Second, we need to make it clear when we have a new Democratic president, which we will prosecute every single person who has violated the law, whether those are people who are ICE agents who've gone rogue, whether they're Justice Department officials who aren't releasing the Epstein Files, whether they're people who disbanded USAID, whether they're people who committed criminal conduct in this administration. There is not going to be reconciliation without accountability. And we need to, when we have the House back, be calling these people in front of the Oversight Committee to demand accountability. So this idea of a Democratic Party that is just going to put in folks who are going to be polite as opposed to going to seek justice and accountability is over. The new generation isn't going to have that. And that is the lesson of what we allowed to happen with Donald Trump.
I didn't set you up, but you took me to where I wanted to go. Is the one of the major mistakes of Joe Biden, and I give credit where credit's due. I said there's two major sins of Joe Biden's administration. First one is his complicity in the genocide of Gaza. Number one. Number two, like you said, is he chose restoration instead of reformation. Instead of holding these people accountable, he chose the wrong man for the job, Merrick Garland, who slow walked it, and voila, we're in this situation. However, Ro, the reason why some of our community members who are watching and tuning in right now are skeptical is time and time again, when given a choice for restoration or reformation, we have seen a lack of accountability. We have seen they're too big to fail. Let's put in these people who literally gave us the worst economic crisis since the Great Depression. Let's let them fail up. When it comes to Richard Nixon, he was the president. We're not going to put him in jail. When it comes to Robert E. Lee and Jefferson Davis, racist traitors who seceded, you know what? Slap on the wrist. Let's have monuments named after him. When it comes to Dick Cheney, let's have hagiography and let's go find his funeral. So a lot of people are saying, we know how the American system works, Ro. Why should we have faith in the Democratic establishment when they said there's accountability, but right now there's no track record of accountability and reform? And let's just take it to ICE. We still don't have Democratic leadership saying, abolish ICE, replace ICE, whatever you want to say. They're still funding ICE. And now you're telling me you're going to have accountability while you're still supporting ICE. I don't believe you. Your response to the Democrats and Americans who are skeptical.
We haven't delivered enough when we've had power. We didn't prosecute the bankers. We didn't prosecute people who got us into the war in Iraq and committed torture. We didn't prosecute individuals who were committed heinous crimes under the first Trump administration or tried to steal the election. And we haven't delivered enough. We didn't deliver on card check in terms of the unions. We haven't delivered on raising the wage. We haven't been able to deliver on taxing the wealthy. So people look at this and they say, when the Republicans get in power, they don't even care about the law and they do their entire agenda. When the Democrats get into power, you just default to an incrementalism that defies and disappoints the hopes of the entire electorate. That is not going to fly anymore. We will be a lawful party. We will be a constitutional party, but we will be an action-oriented party and an energetic party that actually uses every tool at our disposal to deliver on our agenda, to deliver on accountability for people who violated the law, and to deliver on raising the wage and Medicare for all and taxing the wealthy. We actually have to deliver on these promises, or you're going to have an even uglier populism, even if we win in 26 and 28, emerge in 30 and 32. That is going to be the consequence. We put an establishment Democrat in there who's just going to tinker and say, I'm not going to do the sins of Donald Trump. No, we want a FDR-like moment. We want a Lyndon Johnson-like moment, but in a multiracial society. FDR, of course, excluded the Black South. So I think there's a new generation, a new energy, and a new expectation. Now, I don't think it should be retribution. It should be justice. I have a Lincoln-like perspective, and Lincoln cared about the justice and cared about freeing the slaves and voting rights and Reconstruction, but he also gave the second inaugural where he said, with malice towards none and charity towards all. So one can have reconciliation and forgiveness, but that happens after truth and accountability. You don't just skip over the justice, truth, and accountability part.
I agree with you, and many of us many who have been watching the Left Hook say that the time for restoration is over. You need transformation, and you need a type of New Deal moment, and you need a moment where if you have the same old in 2028, and if there are free and fair elections, we're going to get our first openly Nazi America First president in 2032. That's what the last 10 years have shown us, and I'm going to drill you down on some specifics. But you said something about establishment Democrat. It's the word that you used. Define to us what you mean by an establishment Democrat. What are some of the features and traits?
A Davos Democrat as opposed to a Sherrod Brown and Bernie Sanders Democrat, a Democrat who sat there and said, I'm not going to care when we pass NAFTA and China and the World Trade Organization and the jobs went offshore. A Democrat who said that we can watch the deregulation of the financial industry, the repeal of Glass-Steagall, and see profits go to a over-financialized economy at the expense of the working and middle class. A Democrat who's afraid to tax the billionaires and the ultra wealthy. A Democrat who's afraid to stand for Medicare for all and stand for childcare at $10 a day and stand for a living wage. We know there are Democrats who are so afraid of the donor class that they're unwilling to have a politics of economic transformation.
You said accountability. I'm going to drill you on 4 issues on this because I need to know where you stand, because I have my litmus test, and I'm going to share with you my litmus test for the Democrat that I'm going to support. I agree with you that affordability by itself according to me, is not enough. You need affordability and accountability. That should be the message of any Democrat. That reveals a fighting spirit. And that reveals, like you said, someone who understands the moment, is willing to go for transformation. Then you need specifics. And for me, this is just me. My litmus test is who's going to fight for affordability and accountability. Number one. Number two, in no specific order, you have to abolish and or replace or defund ICE. Anyone who says otherwise, I cannot support you. Number three, you have to be able to willing to call out fascism abroad if you're willing to defend democracy at home against fascists, which means you can't support Netanyahu and its genocidal campaign. Also, you have to go against the bro oligarchy. You have to talk about the 1%. You have to do something when it comes to taxing the wealthy. And then finally, my fifth pillar for my personal litmus test for any Democrat is you can't throw anyone under the bus anymore. I can't sit there and see you throw Palestinians under the bus, Muslims under the bus, Somalis under the bus, immigrants under the bus, transgender under the bus, because if you're willing to throw one of them under the bus, you're going to throw all of us under the bus. So under my framework, let's go with ICE. What is your opinion on ICE? Please make the case to me why we should continue funding ICE or supporting ICE.
We shouldn't. We have a vote today that I'm leading the opposition on. It's tripling the ICE budget. Every Democrat should vote no. And I am actually organizing with other progressives to get not just vote no myself, but to get other Democrats to vote no. And to say that you can't just have a pass if you're in a battleground district. This is a moral issue. People are being killed. Americans are being killed. Immigrants are being abused. I was in a detention center. I met 47 detainees. One of them had blood in his urine and he couldn't get a doctor's appointment. I've seen the cruelty firsthand. And as a son of immigrants, this is a moral issue for me. And I've said not only should we be cutting the funding of this agency instead of tripling it, we need to tear it down. And we have to have a totally new agency that is under the Justice Department with with civil rights enforcement. This is how it was before the Patriot Act. And to me, to continue to have this ICE rogue agency, forget the politics. It's just immoral.
So you, Mamdani, have said abolish ICE. Ruben Gallego said tear it down. Of all people, Ruben Gallego was one of the ones who voted for the Lake and Riley Act. AOC, in no certain terms, is defunded. When Ashley said, what do you think that means? It was created in 2003, but what was also created in 2003 was DHS. And DHS is the house of ICE, and the head of DHS is Chrissy Noem, and she stood behind a lectern recently. I'm sure you saw the slogan, one of ours, all of yours, which is a Nazi slogan. So ICE itself is not enough. What is your plans with DHS? How do you reform and or fix DHS?
Well, what I've said is, just to be clear, tear it down and replace, because I want to make it clear of a new agency. Sometimes this is sometimes people who say abolish ICE mean that, create a new agency. Sometimes they may mean, or people may hear, we don't need immigration enforcement. Of course, we need an immigration enforcement agency. And that's why I think the language of saying that it should be replaced, torn down, having a new agency to enforce it is more precise. And that is how we had it before the Patriot Act. And it should be with civil rights oversight. It should be under the Justice Department. It should not be in the Department of Homeland Security. So Kristi Noem has too much power. There should not be a Department of Homeland Security with a carte blanche view of having ICE where you don't have civil rights enforcement. Well, how do we know this? Because they don't even have an investigation when an ICE agent shot cold blood Renee Good. They do not have a standard of force for ICE agents. All of that would change if we had the new agency like we did prior to the Patriot Act and the creation of the Homeland Security. Now, I believe that we can't just have rhetoric like this now. People need to look at what has your position been. When I voted against Lake and Riley, I got almost booed on on Bill Maher's show and lost a quote unquote debate to Stephen A. because I was the one person saying that I was voting against the Lake and Riley Act. And there are a lot of people in the party, probably almost every one of our senators in battleground states who went and voted for it. So one has to look not just at what you say, but what is your record? That's what I admired about Bernie Sanders. What have you fought for year after year after year?
And speaking about getting booed, you're from the Silicon Valley, you're from the Bay Area, you're from my hometown. You have a lot of donors who are wealthy, and they have turned on you, Ro, because you have now said, you know what, I think the people are right. I think Bernie's right. Fight the oligarchy, the 1%, widening income inequality. And you said maybe we should tax the wealthy. Gavin Newsom was also from California, also a front runner, right now the front runner for presidency. When he was asked last month about taxing the wealthy, which is broadly popular across the board, he said said they're part of the big tent. Talk to us about your shift on your position on taxing the wealthy and what some of your donors have sent you when it comes to angry emails.
Well, actually, it's not a shift. When I ran in 2016, I supported a wealth tax, and I think they just sort of realized that because it's become something real with a ballot initiative in California. But if you go back to everything I've said over the years, Bernie ran on this, Warren ran on this. I find it the idea of supporting 1% a tax on billionaires when they've made 7.5% a year to be modest, especially to pay for healthcare. And Gavin Newsom is out there saying, no, absolutely not. I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that the ultra wealthy don't have to pay more tax. I mean, it's a clear contrast in where want the Democratic Party to go. I mean, basically, Newsom's message is to the right of Bill Clinton. I mean, even Clinton was calling for higher taxes on the wealthy. And my message is more aligned with sort of Bernie Sanders' view that we need Medicare for all and a focus on the working class, and the ultra rich need to pay more, not because of punitiveness. You can celebrate innovation, as I always have, in entrepreneurship and people who build things, and say that we need their help at a time where people don't have health care and a time people don't have child care. And that the benefits of the AI revolution, which, by the way, yes, it's builders, but it's also the collective human knowledge that's allowing those models to do what they're doing. It's not just one person who came up with it. And it's actually NSF funding that allowed for ImageNet and George Hinton to create these big language models that all Americans should have a stake in it.
Do we need billionaires?
I have no problem actually with people becoming billionaires. I have a problem with people becoming billionaires and us not having health care as a human right, child care at $10 a day, housing where people can afford a house, making sure that we have a living wage, making sure we have free college. So if we had billionaires and trillionaires in our society, but everyone had the basics to have the American dream, personally, I'd be fine with that. The problem I have, again, it's not punitive, is that we have one-third of the wealth in my district, and you've got 2 million Californians at least are going to lose health care. You've got 200,000 Californians in the healthcare sector who are going to lose their jobs, and you've got 600,000 who are going to be kicked off the Affordable Care Act. And you've had billionaire wealth go up 158% over the last 3 years. We've got to figure this out. It's a matter of values.
And 34 people, according to the latest data, have about 12% of the income. Top 10% are the ones doing the spending. About 80% of them are holding on to their wealth, widening income inequality. Billionaires are making more money, and Elon Musk is about to become the first trillionaire. So I don't know. Gavin Newsom said they're part of the big tent, not my tent row. Speaking about billionaires and accountability, continuing the theme, the Epstein Files. Where are we right now in releasing the Epstein Files? And I know Democrats have a tranche from the Epstein estate. And what I've said from the past 2 weeks is Donald Trump, well, not even past 2 weeks, going back to Venezuela the same day that he was supposed to release the Epstein Files and explain why he redacted, he made the announcement that he was going to invade Venezuela and depose, illegally kidnap, let's just be honest, Maduro. Why don't you all release some of these Epstein Files to put them on the back foot? Because don't you have some documents from the Epstein estate?
We are releasing them. We have released most of them, and we're getting more documents from the Epstein estate. But I know now from the survivors' lawyers that the Justice Department is going to be releasing more documents. Massey and I went to court, even though we lost on the amicus curiae to get a special master. The judge said that DOJ is not acting in good faith, and the judge invited us actually to sue, which we're exploring. But the point is that pressure is partly why the Pam Bondi now is talking to survivors' lawyers about the next release of documents. The difference between how Massey and I approach things is we aren't just tweeting. We're not just doing a viral video. We're not just doing something and letting it go. We have been relentless for months in pursuing this Epstein case using every procedural tool. They didn't expect us to use a discharge petition. We did. They didn't expect us to have the survivors at the press conference in the Capitol. We did. They didn't expect us to get the House votes. We did. They didn't expect us to get the Senate votes. We did. They didn't expect the president to be forced to sign it. We got him to be forced to sign a Democrat's bill. Then they thought we'd just go away and let them deal with it. We did not do that. We actually went and filed in court to hold them accountable. And now we're contemplating inherent contempt, impeachment, or filing an actual lawsuit. So Massey and I are about standing up to a lawless administration, not through rhetoric, but through action. And that should be the template, frankly, for our party in how we deal with the Trump administration.
Why contemplate? Why not do it? Because you have a lot of people who are still alive. I'll give you an example. Leslie Wexner, billionaire, CEO of Limited and Victoria's Secret, who gave hundreds of $1 millions to Jeffrey Epstein, gave him the townhouse. According to what we know, he was one of the 10 co-conspirators that the FBI was looking into when they arrested Epstein. He's still alive. Also, I don't know if you know about this, Michael Cohen, a fantastic document. Ellie Leonard, who's on Substack, one of her subscribers wrote last week, found a document from the Epstein Files. She was the only one who found it, this subscriber, in which Michael Cohen, when he was in prison in 2019, through his attorneys, sent a Rule 35 consideration through his attorneys to the SDNY saying, hey, I have information about Donald Trump and Epstein. I don't know if you've been following this, but Michael Cohen is around. How do we, why don't you can you guys flex and get these people on the record? Can you get people like Wexner and Michael Cohen and others to come in and testify under oath and put the spotlight on this issue? Because I still believe Donald Trump's biggest Achilles cancle is the Epstein Files. He flips out over the Epstein Files. Michael Cohen has flipped out over the Epstein Files. This is the one thing, Ro, if you've seen the latest data, he's -40 on this issue. So instead of contemplation, how about some action? I'm just giving you an idea. What about people like Leslie Wexner and Michael Cohen?
Well, we have taken action. We're the ones who've driven that wedge with Trump. I mean, he was very positive on the Epstein files until Massey and I started taking action. That's what got him where he is. That's why you have a factory worker in Michigan yelling at him that he's a pedophile protector. That's why Sean Ryan is saying that he's not going to vote for someone like Trump anymore because he feels betrayed. It's because Massey and I passed through Herculean odds the Epstein Transparency Act. It's because we've continued to prosecute it in the courts, and will continue to do that. And the
But
oversight
I will
committee.
give you credit. You and Massey, I'm going to give you guys credit. You guys are at the forefront of this. I give credit where credit's due. So respect to you and Massey for this bipartisanship. Please continue.
But the oversight committee should absolutely call in every person who has knowledge of what is done. But the main thing we need to be doing is pushing first for the release of the files, because that's where the evidence is. Having people come in without the files, without the documents, is not going to be effective. And in fact, they could just either take the Fifth Amendment, as Maxwell is saying she will, or not answer the questions. And so, what I am pushing for is putting maximum pressure to get the documents released from the Epstein estate and the Justice Department, and then have hearings. And then I'm hoping we'll have Chairman Robert Garcia of the Oversight Committee in 2027, and there will be plenty of time to have every person implicated in those files or emails before the committee.
I know you have to leave. I want to ask you this question. I'm not putting you on the spot, but you've seen enough. You've talked to the survivors. Um, what do you think Donald Trump is hiding? What do you think will be revealed?
I have resisted for months speculating because it's what makes me responsible and have the trust of the survivors. And if I started to engage in sort of just conspiracy theories, I could go viral very easily, but I would lose the trust of the survivors to actually be caring about justice. But I will say this, that there is obviously deep pressure on protecting some very, very rich and powerful people. And they have turned on both Massey and me. Massey is getting billionaires funding a primary challenge. I have offended the billionaires, but not just because I said, oh, they have to pay more tax, but because Kara Swisher pointed out that there are a lot of Silicon Valley billionaires who, in her words, were caught up in the Epstein mess. And doesn't mean that they engaged in the rape of underage girls, but they may have shown up at parties or done things, according to Kara Swisher, that they shouldn't have. And so we've taken big risks in doing this. And obviously, they're protecting some very rich and powerful people, not just in the United States, but around the world. And that's my honest view of why these files aren't coming out.
I will simply add, yes, there's the money trail that needs to be followed. There's also financial institutions, JP Morgan's there, Deutsche Bank's there. There's also, as Virginia Giuffre alleged before she killed herself, foreign prime ministers in other countries involved. So we need full transparency. I appreciate you coming on. I know you're in a time crunch. I hope you and Thomas Massey continue your work. Please release something, giving you a hint. Release something if you've got it. It'll put Trump on the back foot and maybe keep us from getting into World War III and blowing up NATO. I'll give you the final word, Congressman Khanna,
Well,
before
I
you run.
appreciate it. I appreciate it very much. But look, I I am for replacing ICE with a new agency. I co-sponsored Rashida Tlaib's genocide bill. I saw one comment saying I was not for, I was supporting it in 2024. That's actually inaccurate. I was one of 37 Democrats who voted against the $14 billion funding in defiance of President Biden and my own party in not supporting the genocide. I have called for getting rid of PAC money and lobbyist money and called for taxing the ultra wealthy, including billionaires, more. And I have said that we need to become a moral party that does not throw people under the bus if they're immigrants or trans or folks who are vulnerable. Not just now, but what I did even after Donald Trump won and voting against the Lake and Riley Act and refusing to engage in the self-flagellation our party did in throwing the trans community under the bus. Yes, we need to be for affordability and accountability, but there's something more deeper. We need to have a moral conviction. Courage is the new charisma. We need to have the courage to stand for principles in this party, to paint a moral vision of what a multiracial democracy with dignity looks like that respects the self-determination and sovereignty of all nations around the world. And that's the Democratic Party that I hope to build.
And I'm just giving you a little hint. Maybe try to subpoena Michael Cohen and Leslie Wexner and a few others. I think you'll get a lot of information. It sounds like you sound like a man who might be running for president in 2028. Thank you, Congressman Khanna, for
Thank you.
joining us. Thank you for your team. Take care.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
All right, everyone. That was Congressman Ro Khanna. He is from California. I got to leave in about 3 minutes. I tried my best. Look, when you got elected officials, you got 25 minutes. I wanted to get into Israel, but I appreciate the candor. I've been going back and forth with Congressman Khanna. The last time I talked to him, he came out and said, yes, Israel's committing a genocide. Before then, we went back and forth, and I kept pushing him. So I wanted to push him a little bit on those two issues, and I think the issues we were talking about is accountability. And specifically, you need to have accountability. And without accountability, the system is going to continue on as it is. And for me, the accountability is you have to abolish ICE. You want to replace it, fine. But you have to get rid of it. I want someone to say something: abolish ICE, replace ICE, defund ICE, tear it down. Furthermore, you have to go against the billionaires. You have to tax them. You have to hit them where it hurts, or else there's going to be more and more income inequality. And then also the Epstein Files. I know Lev's here. Lev, I have 2 minutes. I'm going to bring you on for 2 minutes before I go and talk to Julie. I just saw Lev was there. Listen, I gave him some ideas. You got Leslie Wexner and you got Michael Cohen and you got a whole bunch of folks. With Leslie Wexner, he's still alive. Why did this billionaire give hundreds of millions of dollars to Jeffrey Epstein and Michael Cohen? Have him under oath. Ask, hey man, what did you offer? Sorry, Lev, I got 2 minutes.
No, brother. Yeah, I was just saying thank you, man. Thank you for asking. They're great. I know they only have limited time. I'm also having Congressman Ro Khanna on shortly, probably within the next week, and I'll continue what you started. But great work. We need accountability. Subpoena them all. Also, all the other things. Abolish ICE. Keep going, brother. I'm with you.
And also, can you tell people the good news about? I mean, I shared it
Yeah,
with Allison, but about Don
awesome.
Lemon.
Yeah, great news. They tried to actually go in front of a judge and to get an indictment on Don Lemon, but it looks like the judge denied it. So great news. The courts are standing strong against Trump's craziness, and that's a great sign.
It's a great sign, folks. And listen, anyone who's watching who's an elected official, come on the show. The Left Hook now has more than 100,000 subscribers. Many of our live chats, they go viral. Then we post on the Left Hook, and then we post on the YouTube. Ro Khanna's come on 3 or 4 times. I respect him for coming on. I think Jamie Raskin's come on. Greg Casares come on. I try to be honest. I try to be blunt. I try to be fair. When people do good, I give them props. When I feel like they're being a little wishy-washy, you see that I press them, and I want them to be fighters. I want them to fight. And we've seen Ro Khanna in the past year move more and more to the progressive fighting wing. And folks, if you think that's impossible, look at Ro's transformation. Not only transformation, but as he's moving, but also look at Abigail Spanberger. I'm from Virginia, Lev. She ran as a super centrist, and now she's coming with power, and she's flexing. I give credit where credit is due. But the reason why they're flexing and moving this direction, folks, is because because of us. It's because of the pressure. And the New York Times poll came out today. And real quick before I leave, Lev, did you see the New York Times Siena poll? Trump, man, that's bad for Trump.
Yeah, way underwater. Way
Way
underwater.
underwater, negative double digits across the board. And folks, he's losing white workers.
Oh yeah, and did you see his hand in Davos? Black and white. Exactly.
And I feel like this is a guy who knows he's dying, and as he dies, he wants to take the world with him. It's like Festivus. It's like Khan from Wrath of Khan. He's so enraged that he wants just blood. He wants blood and honey and everything. He wants to fill his appetite and take out all his enemies before he goes down. It's the worst person on earth, folks. It's like the Pharaoh. Thank you, Lev, for joining. Thank you all for joining. I'm going to be on with Julie in about a minute. Join us. Take care, everyone.
Take care, guys.